Welcome to the Health and Healing from the Inside Out podcast with Stephanie A. Wynn, an online health and wellness podcast where I, your host, will provide weekly wellness tips about inflammatory bowel disease, specifically Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. The Health and Healing from the Inside Out podcast is a mixture of special guest interviews from healthcare professionals, IBD survivors, Crohn's survivors, ulcerative colitis survivors, and community thought leaders. Be sure to select the subscribe button and let's start the health and healing process from the inside out. Hello and welcome back to the Health and Healing from the Inside Out podcast. I am your host, Stephanie A. Wynn, where we will explore important health topics and share stories of resilience and hope, specifically for my inflammatory bowel disease community. Today, we're going to be talking about relationships and inflammatory bowel disease. Hang tight. We're going to get right to this week's episode. But before we get into this week's episode, remember, this journey is going to require that you have a growth mindset, right? What do I mean by that? I mean that instead of, magnifying this illness, I need you to start to change your language. You got to change what you say over your body. You got to, tell yourself, I am healed. I will live. I will not die. I am successful. I am strong. And remember, it doesn't matter how much money you have. The richest people in the world can have all the money. But if your health is not in control, you have nothing. You're just as poor as anybody else. Like, if your health is poor, so is your pockets. I mean, think about it, right? We're going to get right into this week's topic. We're not going to have that scarcity mindset. We're going to have the growth mindset. And that growth mindset that's the way to heal. Having that growth mindset, I am healed from the inside out, right? For many people, I talk about this all the time. For many people that lives with inflammatory bowel disease, this condition can have significant impact on their relationships. And the physical symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease, such as the diarrhea, the abdominal pain, the blood in the stools, the constipation, it can be distressing and interfere with your daily activities, your relationships, right? And so I want to talk about this. I want to break down the challenges that you may face and how to overcome them, right? Having inflammatory bowel disease is not your end all be all. You can't let this validate who you are, right? So these challenges can put a strain on even the strongest relationships. So it's important for individuals who have been diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease, specifically ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, to communicate with their loved ones about their needs and any accommodations that may be necessary. It is also important for loved ones to be understanding and supportive. Let me tell you something. I suffered in silence for years, months on end, and I didn't tell my mom the severity of what was going on with me. I would just tell her, Mom, I'm sick. That's all I would tell her. I'm sick. And my mom and I really have a tight relationship, and it was embarrassing to talk about. To tell her every time I go to the bathroom, there's blood in the toilet. Looks like someone has just stabbed me millions of times. Or it looks like I delivered a child, and so I couldn't tell her that. It wasn't until it got really bad where I could barely walk. And my mom went to take me to get a colonoscopy. And the doctor came out and was like, she needs to stay away from anything with the drive-through window. She needs to remove toilet paper out of her home and use wipes and change her diet ASAP. We'll see her in a follow-up. We'll wait for the biopsy to come back. And that was it. And so, again, some people, the relationships, it takes a strain if you don't have someone that can be there for you. So, again, let's talk about the relationship challenges when you're dealing with inflammatory bowel disease, right? How do you maintain a healthy, supportive relationship while living with inflammatory bowel disease? Make sure that you communicate openly and honestly. Like for me, my mom, I didn't want them to worry. I didn't tell my dad, and my dad, I'm close with both of my parents. but it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to talk about that I was having stomach issues. And so it is important to keep your loved ones informed about your condition and how it may impact your relationship. This can help to foster understanding and support, right? So you gotta be honest. You gotta be open. You don't have to go through this alone. You don't have to suffer in silence. This episode is brought to you by the Let's Talk Inflammatory Bowel Disease Health and Wellness Symposium, a health and wellness symposium hosted by the Stephanie A. Wynn Foundation, whose focus is on raising awareness of inflammatory bowel disease, also known as IBD, among African Americans who are disproportionately affected by this chronic illness. The goal of the symposium is to partner with healthcare community partners to support underserved African Americans living with inflammatory bowel disease in their pursuit to live a more quality life. This symposium, it is sponsored by our exclusive sponsor, which is Moffitt Cancer Center, who have come aboard to sponsor and believe in this symposium. We're going to have gastroenterologists there, mental health and wellness clinicians to speak about the importance of mental health when you're diagnosed with a chronic illness such as IBD. And in order for you to get on your journey of health and healing, we'll also have dietitians and nutritionists there to talk about your diet. Now, specifically for Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, it is definitely important. We'll have our exclusive community healthcare organizations, our financial exclusive well-being organization there, and we will also have a healthcare carrier there on site to sign you up for health insurance. Now, listen, this is not the normal symposium where you go and you hear a lot of people talk. We're actually getting things done on top of educating our community. One thing I do know is this: being diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease and being in the African American community, our treatment of healthcare is totally different compared to other cultures. And so we are wanting you to join us. Come join the conversation about the IBD healthcare disparities. This is going to take place again Saturday, March the 25th at 9 a.m. at Clearwater, Florida. And it's going to be at the Carroll Hotel. And the information is going to be in the show notes. Now, listen, if you're unable to attend in person and you would like to sponsor or you would like to donate to the cause, I'm going to drop the link in the show notes as well. Without further ado, we're going to get back to the show. And thank you for your time. Peace. And then number 2, you want to set boundaries. It is okay to set limits on your time and energy. It is also important to prioritize your own self-care and to communicate your needs to your loved ones. In the last episode, we talked about self-care is so vital. You have to take time for yourself. You can't have any stress. You got to take time for yourself. And then you want to seek support. Now, it can be helpful to connect with others who are living with inflammatory bowel disease and to seek support from a healthcare provider or mental health professional. Now, I did both, all 3. I joined inflammatory bowel disease groups. I had a mental health professional on my team. I have my healthcare providers. And so what I learned was not all IBD groups are good, because sometimes you'll find that it's a woe is me pity party, and I can't survive in that type of environment. I need to survive and thrive with people who are on the move, who, yes, this condition is there, but it doesn't validate who I am. And I'm moving. We bringing about effective change. We fighting for the cause, right? Those are the people that I surround myself with, right? And so then number 4, you want to practice self-compassion. Like, believe in yourself. Listen, when you look at yourself in the mirror, and I want to give this shout out to Jay Spikes, who gave this analogy about when you pointing your finger at other people as to why you're going through this. Well, there's 3 fingers pointing right back at you. So practicing self-compassion, it's important to be kind and understanding towards yourself. It is also okay to have good days and not so good days. And it is also important to take care of yourself and seek support when needed. Period. Listen, I'm telling you, you can live with this condition and not let it validate who you are. Does that make sense? So consider these strategies. Maybe you're in the bed, you can't get up today. Maybe you're just you're barely making it. Maybe you're running on fumes because you're just so weak and fatigued. But know that you got to communicate and be honest openly, set boundaries, seek support, and practice self-compassion. You got to love yourself first before you can be anything to anybody else. I know a lot of us want to be in a relationship. And sometimes, like for me, when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I was single. I had to go through this by myself. I didn't have time to entertain a relationship. My doctor made it clear to me, no stress, no stress. And that is what I live by, no stress. My family know, don't bring me no stress. Do not call me with the foolishness. They already know. Do not call your mom with the foolishness. My sons, they know. They already know. They know. I lost some friends along the way. When we talk about relationships, one thing I do know, if you have a need, you get sick, or if there's something major that you, like if you need help. I was laid off from my corporate job where I made, almost 6 figures, like a 6-figure job. They never called to say, hey, Stephanie, how are you doing? They laid me off. I was laid off. So I remember saying, asking God, I don't know what you're going to do to get me off this job, but I know you're going to get me off this job, because it was so stressful. I was getting sicker by the day, and I don't even know how I was working. It was almost like I was a zombie. Friendships had declined, because some people, they don't understand. Some people are not compassionate. Some people don't have compassion. Some people are so focused on their needs that they lose sight of your needs and see that you're even there. But let me tell you, going through this process, I had to go through it alone. Not so much just alone, but I really wasn't alone because I had God on my side. I believe in God. And so I knew that was the only way that I was going to get through this. And I had to go through the isolation process. And so by the time I looked up, the friends that I thought were, with me, they were gone. They were gone. So again, by following these strategies and maintaining open and honest communication, you can build and maintain healthy, supportive relationships while living with inflammatory bowel disease. I want to leave you with this affirmation, right? These words of encouragement. It is a great day to have a great day. Remember that. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Doesn't matter what it feels like. It is a great day to have a great day. I'm your host, Stephanie A. Wynn. Until next time, peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Health and Healing from the Inside Out podcast, an online health and wellness podcast where I, your host, Stephanie A. Wynn, will provide weekly wellness tips about inflammatory bowel disease, specifically Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. Be sure to select the subscribe button and let's start the health and healing process from the inside out.